Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of BLS042 Show and Tell with Alex. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining. We've been talking about doing a session for months, literally.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited that we're gonna do this. I'm just gonna make sure that everything is right. It looks like we're live on YouTube, so that's good. So I'm gonna be closing this thing. I think I'm on a Colombian Airbnb internet connection, so it might be a bit unstable. I think you're also not at your home connection.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hope everything stays online, and if not, please bear with us. But yeah, so today we're going to talk about tRPC, and I'd love you to give us a rundown. What is tRPC? How do you describe it? Why did you build it? Kind of the origin story of it.
Yeah. Well, tRPC is a sort of it's a set of libraries to help you build end-to-end type-safe APIs with TypeScript and JavaScript Node, and I have some adapters for React and whatever. So you can think of it as a sort of a REST or GraphQL replacement if you're only in JavaScript land.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And it makes it really fast to just write the backend endpoints and wire them up to your front end.
Awesome. So the name kind of suggests it's similar to gRPC as well. I think that's, in terms of the name, it's most similar. Does it have any similarities there as well, or?
Well, it is a sort of a remote procedure call. So in that sense, it has some similarities to gRPC, but the naming the name is TypeScript remote procedure call, because what you do is basically write backend functions that you call from the front end as if you're in the same sort of project.
Awesome. I did check your stream on the Prisma channel, which is super interesting. So I think today we're gonna actually use it, which is great.
Cool.
So classic BLS show and tell. We have a few all-time visitors, Abel Lafuente and Orlando Manuel Ospino Hernandez. Bienvenidos. Super nice. These are OGs for my channel. I've been away for I think 4 months from YouTube. I've been traveling to Europe. I'm now back, and I hope to get in the cadence again of doing some more episodes. So always nice to see some OGs. And this fancy thing on the side here is a new feature of my streaming app, which is kind of cool. But all that aside, I think we can actually dive right into it. I've downloaded the demo app, or I've downloaded the repo, which has a Next.js app, and let's just look at it. And let me see. I need to switch. So one of the things for people out there, I only have one screen in my current setup, so I'll be switching things. It's not as fluent as it normally is. We should be able. There you go. Here's a nice mosaic. But I think we should be able to. There we are. Good. So now when I minimize this, I can actually just leave this open here, open IntelliJ. So it's still installing packages. We were already kind of thinking about this. This might take a little bit to install. It looks like it's downloading and building Playwright.
Yeah, that always takes some time.
I've actually totally on the side here, but I've started using PNPM yesterday, and it was super fast for the things that I was doing. Most likely because it will save my poor internet connection here for a little bit. Okay, cool. So we got the project open, and I'll pop open the terminal here so we can execute some commands. We do, of course, need to wait till this installation is finished. So I'll drag it on the side, and I'll close some other stuff to save my CPU from some headaches.
So let's see that you got the right thing open.
Yeah.
Could you open that again? Because it looks like you have cloned the tRPC repo itself.
Yeah. Is this not the idea?
No, the idea is that you should get into like a subdirectory of tRPC that only has an example on it.
Yes. Okay.
So
I should run
we can actually go to the tRPC website, and I can talk through like if someone watching this wants to do this themselves. So if you go to tRPC.io to start with, and you can click straight on the example apps in the top, and then it's the first one there that we're running, the quick start with create next app. So if that was the thing you copied before, you shouldn't have gotten the sort of full repo. You should have only gotten this subdirectory.
Got it. Yeah, I don't think I used the correct one. So let's, why don't we go here and actually run this and see which one wins. Might be, and we might be able to break off the top one then.
Yeah, I think so. That seems to be installing the whole repo.
Yeah, that's not the thing. I mean, I definitely, if we have some time left, I think we can definitely check if we can look a little bit how it's structured, but let's by all means get a demo app, out first.
So as soon as you cloned it, we could open that up and.
Yeah, let me make sure that this one is all good. So yeah, it's kind of a hassle with only one screen, but that's okay. The important thing is that we're here and that we get some nice footage on how to use this library. Start idea here. And this should open the starter, which is currently being installed. Good. Okay. And this has Prisma. You're also a big fan of Prisma, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You're also an ambassador?
Yeah.
That's nice. That's awesome. So we both are Prisma ambassadors. Yeah, it's great to see this. It definitely ticks a lot of boxes that I love to work with. So TypeScript, type safety is super important for me. This is, I think, one of the reasons why I like Prisma so much.
Then I think you like tRPC as well. Someone on Twitter wrote that like tRPC is sort of like your Prisma for your API layer.
That's nice. Yeah, definitely interesting to think about it. Just as a quick glance over here, this is a super simple model. I don't have a lot of experience with Next.js. I mean, I know how it works. I've played around with it quite a bit. I just haven't built any production apps, so that's going to be interesting to check how that fits in. But looks like we're done here. So I guess I can run yarn dev.
Yeah, or run yarn dx. Yarn dx also starts a Postgres instance for you automatically.
Good. I'm going to start it in the terminal here inside the editor so that I can get rid of this thing on the side. We no longer need that one.
Hopefully this works. I just
pulling
added
in an
this
image.
Docker container. Yeah, I just added this Docker container the other day. So before that, I had SQLite on this example. But the first thing anyone will do when they start a project with this would be to rip out SQLite and wait. So
yeah, you figured you might as well add directly.
Yeah, but it makes this demo a bit slower to get started.
But it looks like it's there. It's applying migration. It's doing the seed. Awesome.
And now,
and there it starts.
So you will see a super sexy app.
Ha! This looks awesome.
Yeah, apparently I have twice the seed data, but we can ignore that.
Let me quickly close some things here. Yes, okay, good. So this is the demo app. Yeah, as you said, super sexy. It looks definitely production ready. Let's ship it. Whoa, this is something I didn't inspect. I think we can go into this in a little bit of detail.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's. I'd say knock yourself out. Run me through. What do you think I can look at? How do you want me to explore this thing?
Yeah, so I mean, we can start with yes. I mean, we can look at this app. It's pretty simple. It has a front page with posts, and you can add a new post. You can try that out, and it also have server-side input validation. So if you don't input a title, you'll get an error. You see that this is an error straight from Zod, which is the validation schema we have, and then you can also go into a page, like a detailed page, by picking view post and see some information there. You can see that we have we just show the post when it was created and the text. Super simple. There's no styling on this. There's nothing else but like some helpers for the developer experience and tRPC and Prisma.
Got it. Yeah. So this is definitely familiar standard format on how Prisma does. I'm already a bit intrigued. While I keep on closing some more windows, I'm already intrigued by the beautiful logging that I see here. I really appreciate how this all looks. This definitely a nice level of polish.
Yeah. So there's a link there that adds on any request that is done by tRPC. I have a middleware that logs out sort of like, this is when the request started, this is what came back.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. And another thing I'm curious about, let's just experiment something. This is probably something I would check. One of the first things I'd check. How do we actually see it go over the wire? I assume it's this one.
Yeah, so if you reload this page in particular, it's actually server-side rendered.
Okay, cool.
But then it also does the request as soon as it mounts. So you will see a tRPC request. The font is a bit small for me, so I can't read it right now. Or wait, I'll make you full screen on my end. That'll be easier.
That'll also help, but also.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Good call here, but because I should also up this in the browser a bit. And luckily, with a simple page like this, we have enough space for our inspector. So that's all cool. So interesting. You said it's server-side rendered. So if we can, I mean, one of the ways I like to check this out is using curl on the terminal, and then we should exactly see indeed here it's the post Hola Mundo. Okay, awesome. Yeah. But then to dive into questions, so server-side rendered, this makes one request to the database, and then here it loads into the front end as well, so it makes another request to the database. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we can actually inspect this page. So if we go to if you kick up like code or something, and we go into the pages post page, we can actually see how it works.
Good. So this is the post view page.
Yeah.
So what we see here, we use the next router to fetch the ID.
Yeah.
And then here we call into tRPC.
Yeah. And then you can see here, if you like hover over data in the button, you will have types infer there.
There you go. Okay. Very nice.
And one thing of note here is that you see that it's actually a data object on the created at that goes over the wire.
Yeah.
So you can actually return a data object from the database. But we can talk a bit through what happens here. So if you go to we can see what you do on the back end for this part. So if you go to server/routers in the source directory, you'll have the post router here.
Got it. Yeah.
And then you can guess what this query's name is called that we use on this page. You can look in the ID.
I guess it's the last one here.
Yeah.
The by ID, or it's not the last one, but this one it is. Yeah. Okay, good. So this is a query, and I define the name of the query here. So the path, this is, I guess, similar to a path in a simple HTTP request, in like URL.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then here is the procedure.
So what we have here is we have defined like a query or an endpoint here that is called by ID. And to that endpoint, we have defined the sort of input you want that endpoint to include. And that's defined by a ZOD validation schema, but you can also use YAP or other validator forms. You can write your own custom validator here. And for all endpoints, you also have to have a resolve function. So if you done like GraphQL backends before, you will be familiar with how this looks like. And then the resolve function gets the input inferred from the validator just above. So you can see that that has the right types based on the input you defined. And in your resolve function, all we do here is to take the ID, we do a Prisma query, find by unique, and then if we don't find a query, we throw a 404 error, and we return the posts. And so this is all you have to do to define an endpoint in tRPC. And then you can straight away use that endpoint without doing any code generation or anything like that on your front end. And you get type inference both of the input types and also what you return from the database.
Yeah, that's actually pretty fascinating. So, and this is also something in your Prisma call, which I recommend everybody to check. I'll link it in the description. There's no code generation step. So what I generally do, I mean, of course, there's the Prisma part that's kind of outside your project. But what I tend to do when I build a backend, I'm a heavy user of GraphQL for years.
Yeah.
I generate code, then I have GraphQL code gen, that'll create the front end code for me. And this is like type safe heaven, because if I break something on the API, when I try to query, it will not. It'll break in several steps. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. If I start removing properties that I actually use in my front end, the generation step goes well, but then my front end won't compile because of this type safety. And you've managed to do this without a code generating step.
Exactly. So I have to say that too. I'm a massive GraphQL fan, and there's a lot of things you can do in GraphQL that you can't do in tRPC. But that aside, you remove a lot of steps from what you are used to. If you're in like in REST, it would be like a Swagger schema that would be the source of truth. Then you do code generation from that to the back end, and then code generation from that to the front end, and then you have to manually keep it up to date. And it's kind of slow. You know, you get feedback after a few seconds, not straight away. Here you can edit. Here you can edit a Prisma query on your back end and get type errors on the front end before you even save the file, because it's just by the TypeScript inference through the whole.
Before you ever save the file, this is interesting. Okay, so maybe I can experiment something. So because if you don't have any code generation step, I guess the only alternative that you have is to basically have a couple of super smart types that infer whatever you're typing.
Yeah.
And then the front end is basically looking at exactly the same types, inferred types as the backend. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you can look at the underscore app.ts. That is sort of the root router of your backend. And you can see that here we have an app router, and then we merge everything on the post router under post dot. That's why you get post dot by ID rather than by
Got
ID.
it.
So you can nest queries. And then what we actually export that the front end then uses is this export type app router at the end. And from that app router, which is a massive complicated object, from that app router, we can then infer everything that goes on the back end. I've been diving
super
deep
interesting
into generics.
Yeah, I can imagine. And TypeScript. Is there a certain TypeScript version that made this all possible?
Yeah, so for 4.1, in 4.1 they introduced something called literal string types, which enables you to do this sort of like building of strings in the sort of meta language.
The way I understand it, this have basically unit types, and then you can have like type C that does A dash B or something like this. This is, I think I got remembered by this because of a recent. Yeah, now you have AA, AB, BA, and BP. Yeah, this is cool. So this, and I think I've seen a few iterations of this. I've seen people use this to basically quickly generate all the types for Tailwind, or a lot of types for Tailwind.
Yeah.
Because it does like margin stuff, and yeah, interesting. So okay, so this having this feature allowed you to be able to build these kind of things.
Yeah.
Quickly. Awesome. Great. So cool. Yeah. Let's move on. Yeah.
So yeah, this is the sort of the entry point for your sort of backend router. And what's actually exposed in the API is an API handler that then uses this router. So if you're familiar with Next.js, you have the /API route that automatically becomes the API endpoint. And here you see that we have a tRPC endpoint that just calls the next API handler with a router.
Got it. And okay, this makes sense, because this is also why this inferred type here has a bunch of next API request, next API response.
Yeah.
It's basically depending on where you run it. And if I wish, for instance, I could look at creating a Nest API handler, maybe.
Yeah, it should be possible. I have adapters for like a vanilla node server, which the HTTP library. And there's also adapters for Express.js, and I have some examples with Fastify. It doesn't really care. Some people use it with AWS Lambda functions.
Very cool. Okay, so here this is basically where you define your app, and then I guess Next.js handles the part where it actually starts listening to a port and starts handling the requests. So this is basically out of sight for the app developer.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, and so from my understanding, I see here these packages. This is the local tsconfig paths, I assume. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just set source as the base URL.
Sorry?
I've just set source as the base URL.
Ah, got it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Great. So anything within there can be included. I think I saw utils being used at some place, so we might get that that in a second. But basically, this is where you define your router. This is where I would create like all of my CRUD, for example. just start adding more routers. And then once my Nest server starts, this API route will basically fetch this router, pass it into this next handler, passing the context mechanism.
Yeah. So for each incoming request, you can also define a context that is then passed to all of the API resolvers, similar to GraphQL as well. Mm-hmm. I've been gotten inspired by like most things on how Apollo does request handling or whatever. So you can create a context object and get user meta information, and that will then be passed down into all the context into all the API resolve functions.
Got it. And this context that is then defined here.
Yeah.
So let's take a look. So here you instantiate new Prisma client, which you can just tag on it on reference. So if I want to have something else, I can just add whatever I want here, and this will be available. This is actually pretty cool because you can, for instance, say something like this. Pass along the environment, and then you have the environment available in all your requests.
Yeah, you can try to use that in your post router straight away, if you want.
Wait, in the front end, or in the
in the back end. Yeah.
Okay. So and there's I mean, I can just simply log it out, I guess, initially. So just log CTX Meta. There you go. .env. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Very cool. So up until this point, I think there's quite a lot of similarities, and that's good. I think it's great to inspire by things that work well. I really like the mechanism of having a query, or basically a method, query or mutation, and then adding a resolver. I think that mentally makes a lot of sense. So cool. So good context created here, and this also is adapted for next.
Yep.
To add the next request and response. So okay, that's also cool because that also means, if I understand it correctly, I can do like ctx.request and, for instance, fetch like headers and yeah, there you go. Things like authorization that will be in a production app. This is probably something that you'd use for authorization.
What I do in my production app is that on the create context, in the create context function, I usually look at the request headers and do a database query to get the actual user object, and then the user object of the current user is inferred straight to the
right. So it just sits on the context then.
Yeah.
So you could just basically say Prisma, if you had it, user.find by ID or find unique. Interesting. And okay, we might be able to pull this off in a little bit. I really like this idea of doing that here. Cool. So this is the context, and then I guess if you want to do some sort of cache, you could add like simple caching here, so you're not looking up the user each time.
Seems exactly. Like... So yeah, then you could do like some Redis thing there.
Awesome. Cool. So that's create context here inside tRPC one. I see an error handling here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You can capture these errors. I'm just gonna check it out because with a library like this, I expect everything to be highly typed.
Yeah. There's more types than documentation. Like you will find things that is not covered by the documentation if you do this.
Right. Yeah.
Like that teardown function that you can call at the end of a response handler in Lambda functions to like, close the Postgres connection or something.
Got it.
So here you would run that, Prisma dot $disconnect.
It disconnects. Yeah. That's awesome, and it needs to be expects a promise. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And so let me quickly click in. And this is actually coming from the library, right? This is from npm. Yeah, it's in Node modules.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. So I think so. From what I understand, part of it is just published as a library, just as any other TypeScript library, and you invert typing because of that. And the other part is basically whatever you construct here or in the context, this gets directly inferred into other into types you can use elsewhere.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Do you want to create a query or a router or something?
Yeah, let's
have a field.
Yeah, I'd say walk me through it. Maybe we can add a user endpoint, get some users, and link them up. See how a relationship works, for instance.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I guess you start in the Prisma schema.
The beloved Prisma schema.
Yeah.
I'm gonna quickly just copy this one over. Username string unique. I guess that's enough.
Yeah.
I mean, we might give them an email because why not? Okay, awesome. Yeah, so that's one. Opening up my terminal because I assume we need to run something. Do you have like scripts set up to do this?
So I have this part of the yarn-dx command, but you can run yarn db migrate dev.
I got it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Just so checking out. What this does is the db up, the migrate, the seed, and then the dev. Great. Okay. So running yarn db migrate dev.
Okay. So you need to set this and .env file. Yeah.
Just gonna pick this one up.
Yeah.
Good. So this migration is there. Client is now generated, and I guess I now need to restart the dev server as well, right?
No, you shouldn't need to. I think you can just go on.
Good. Okay, great. So added schema here. Prisma is generated. We don't have any users, but that's fine for now. So step one, I always start with the schema as well. So that's good. And then what's the next step?
So the next step would probably be to do your user router. So similar to you have a post router, you do one that is called user.ts. I have routers at singular, but that's however you like it.
Yeah, I'm also on the singular camp with that.
And then you can copy the first 10 lines, whatever.
Yeah. Let's start with this. And okay, so this is the thing I'm actually going to be exporting the type of, if I understand this correctly. Yeah. So what I'm going to do,
that's all you need to do for now. So you just export the post router or user router.
User router. This is type user router equals type of user router. It's an interesting
this you don't
syntax.
have to do, actually. The last bit you don't have to do.
Okay. Okay, good.
So I guess we can do like a by ID query to start with.
Okay, so here is my query. I do by ID.
Yep.
And then this takes an object.
Yeah.
Which has an input and the resolver. Let's set this up. And then in the input, I can say.
So the input, you probably want to have a Zod schema. So instead of that object, you do z.string or something.
Got it.
And then you need to close that. Yeah, cool. So now you don't have to pass anything to that. So now you will know that input will always be a string on this procedure.
Okay, it's okay, but for my understanding, let me quickly peek into the posts routes. Here we have an let's see, by the by ID. Here we have a named parameter that's a string,
Yeah,
but you can also just accept a string.
Yeah, you can do whatever type of object you want there. You can do a date if you want.
Interesting.
Like a date object.
That's really cool. Okay, I'm gonna just make prettier happy by adding a comment here, so it won't add it all to one line. Good. Okay, so great. We just input a string, so we don't need to prefix it. Say ID is this, and then our resolver method. And if I understand correctly, this will be an async one.
Yeah. I prefer the other syntax, but it's like whatever you want.
Let's get this.
I find this tidier for some reason than tidier than arrow functions.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. So now I got my resolve endpoint, and so I should be able to say prisma.user.findUnique, where ID is input dot. It's just input.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Return that.
Okay, so this might very well be the cleanest API that I've ever written.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not many lines of code, right? And then now we can do like maybe we want to do a page to show a specific user.
Got it. Yeah. So we go to the front end, and we're gonna do this TSX file. So that's user and then id.tsx.
Yeah.
And let's just, because here is, I think, little tRPC magic. Let's just copy this over, right? Search and replace.
Yeah. Let's start with that.
And let's create this one, user, a user, and do the, instead of post query, user query. I can't be the only developer that works this way most of the time.
No, I do this all the time too.
Good. And then let's quickly fix this. Okay, this is already, I love this already. So my template now starts screaming that I try to consume fields that it doesn't understand. So
yeah,
I think I know what the issue is. I think the reason is that here we pass in an object as an ID, whereas we actually specify user. So if we get this back to ID, then this squiggly line should disappear. But
so there's one thing we missed here. We have to. Yeah, sorry. Can you guess what it is?
We have to add the post here.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot it.
The user router. Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna import this one, user from user router, and then magically, bam. Oof. Okay, this is pretty cool. I think this is really what typing is meant to do, like give you errors very early on, and even better in the error, because I haven't looked at the console for the whole time for any errors. So it's all in the editor, which is great. So let's reverse this. If we had it this way, right? Because we copied it, and now it will actually start complaining about, type ID is not assignable to string. Awesome. And then now this query should be good. So the user query should be type safe. And now we can actually look at the other errors. So this says it has user or .nil. So there you go. It appears, all the stuff from Prisma appears here.
Mm-hmm.
This is cool. Let's get rid of this one. And now the only thing I'm not sure if you know why. Okay, the object is possibly null.
Yeah, because the Prisma query can return null if it doesn't find it.
Right, and we didn't handle the error in our backend routes. Is that related?
Yeah. So if you look at the other example, the post.id, that actually throws an error if we don't.
Yeah.
If we don't find one, so I do that because then I can propagate errors all the way from like whatever you throw in your resolver to the HTTP code to when you actually load the page of server-side rendered.
Got it. Okay, so I can add this to my route here. I can say const user is await. And then I can say if user, let's do ID as well here. ID is just input. And no user found.
We have a very similar style when we code.
Really?
Yeah.
Good.
I did this. Yes, copy paste, search replace, done.
Yeah.
Hack around.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay. Errors disappeared. Okay, great. So apparently TypeScript understands that if you throw an error here, it will never return an empty thing. So this basically, I guess this is your type guard, or I guess it's what it's called, right? Type guard.
Yeah. I don't know the correct naming of it.
And false. So this should again trigger this error. Yeah, there you go. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so
the type inference in the TypeScript is amazing. So it allows you to do stuff like things that are really hard. It allows you to do in easy ways. So another thing to note here is like you haven't declared a single type in this project yet. You haven't defined an interface or a type or a generic or anything. And doing something like this without tRPC and without, I mean, it's impossible without defining some magical type stuff that you share between the backend and the front end. Here it's just inferred straight from Prisma.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was about to look. This is basically our source of truth, right? This one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this is something I've been struggling with. So I can definitely see this as a very minimal code approach, low code approach, which is good. The project that I work in generally are pretty much the opposite, and I kind of justify it by generating a lot of stuff and because it works for super large apps. But I can definitely see the how do you say it, the benefits of having something like this. And actually these ones have been useless for me pretty much because I need to have a class or an interface and decorate it with stuff. So yeah, definitely interesting to see that. It's a great thing to point out. Okay, awesome. So now I got a user page. Is this it?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things we don't have a user.
We don't have any data.
Yeah, so let's see. Let's basically create one here, right, in the seed.
Yeah.
Let's just, I guess, we can do an upsert where the user ID is a little bit different. Username is gonna give your name.
Now I see where you have two posts on your thing. The ID should be in the create object as well. In the apps. Yeah, exactly. I missed that.
And here I'm also missing alex@trpc.io. Don't start spamming Alex, please.
If it's about tRPC, you can spam me all you want.
Good, yeah. Emails about tRPC are definitely welcome. Okay, so I need to run db seed, and I need to make sure that I have this file here as well. So one of the interesting things you said, I don't need to restart the server. is Next.js behind? Do you know why this is? Is Next.js behind the scenes restarting if it sees something change there?
Yeah, so Next.js has watchers on both the front and the back end. So the sort of the node process in the background will automatically restart or regenerate on request. And the same on the front end. So if you're viewing a page and you save something, the page automatically, has hot reloading and whatever.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, so we have a user. And now I should be able to fetch this ID, go back to my browser, wherever I left that one, and formulate the URL here, /user/ this one, find unique of undefined.
We might need to do Prisma generate or some stuff.
This, do you have a shortcut for that as well? No.
Might be yarn.
Okay, good. Prisma client is now regenerated.
Okay. Let's have a look at your backend function in this user router. Find.
Yep. Backend, here we go. CTX Prisma.user.
That looks right.
Yeah.
Maybe just try restarting the yarn-dx command. See. You don't do migrations every day, so usually I just like do my migration, then rerun the yarn-dx command.
Yeah, it makes sense. I generally run my separate service in separate windows, so I can restart them individually. But this seems fast enough, so that's good. Then we scroll back here, refresh. Lo and behold, we have our user back. This is amazing. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Now, one of the things that I think is pretty common. So let's freestyle for a little bit. We can close this one here. Let's get a new string here and let's call it password, because this is probably some common thing. So you say you break it up and then you just start it up again, and that does it all.
Yeah. Then you'll get prompted with migration. Added the requiring column.
Yeah, let's make sure. Let's just add a password here in the sample data.
Another thing you can do is to nuke the database. Is it yarn Prisma reset you run or something?
Let me quickly look. But just the normal yarn. Yeah. Let's actually see if this, just out of curiosity, see if this helps. Yeah, exactly. It needs to set. There you go. Yes, because we don't have database URL.
Yeah, there's a few things here on the DX that I could improve.
It's always interesting to see somebody else first timer work with your stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think this is actually a matter of just copying this one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I do.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it now says column password doesn't exist in database. Yeah, that's great. We want to reset it. I've actually been using a lot this command, db push. I'm not sure if you know it.
Yeah, that's for the production stuff, right?
I've been using it only. I've not used migrate since this this stuff is there. But I'm in the luxury position that I hardly run any production apps, and if I do, I generally maintain them myself. So if I want to, like, let's say, deprecate a field, which is generally why you want to migrate stuff, yeah. in the position where I can gradually migrate. So what I generally do, if I want to just basically nuke it, I make it optional, redeploy it, then empty it, and then remove it. So it's basically 2 or 3 steps, and it's in my situation definitely manageable. And if there's something more involved, I generally just run a migration script inside my code that gets redeployed. But I definitely understand why migrations are there and why they are interesting for a lot of people.
Yeah, so this project is set up so there's a build command that automatically does the DB push when you deploy to Versal or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm doing very similar stuff. I tend to run a lot of stuff on Heroku, and I think I do it in the start. So when I start, I do I try to do a DB push, and the nice thing is, if it's a breaking operation, it will not start. So you notify it directly, like if server goes down, it's most likely because it couldn't apply the database. So it's kind of safe to do this.
Yeah, exactly. The only problem there is if you have several workers will try to do the DB push, which is not good.
Yeah, in serverless, it's definitely another concern. Yeah, I can see that. Good, so we managed to restart. I added the password field, and the reason is, of course, that I'd like to see it here. Well, I don't, but we're going to see it here. So it's going to be there. So this is like default behavior, and I think often it's things like this why you don't want to expose your DB over the wire, which is something like we're technically not doing it, but it's getting very close, right? We're sitting pretty close to this wire.
It's good it's good thinking that you got to this point straight away. I've actually made a feature request to Prisma in order to be able to deal with this sort of stuff, because I don't want to have accidental leaky abstraction. So one thing to circumvent this is to have sort of you should never really use find unique without a select clause. I like for Prisma to just enforce that you can never do select star.
Yeah, I guess.
And GraphQL is really good at solving this stuff.
Yes, yeah. So in my apps where I use Nest.js with GraphQL, as long as I don't decorate the fields, it won't appear. So I opt into all the fields. But if you have a large app, it also means you're managing replication of your schema Prisma. I have to duplicate this, and it's. I've had fixes for this. I've written Prisma generators that would actually generate the stuff for me. Kind of defeats the purpose because you now have to go back and change stuff. I think instead of having a select, having an option where you could basically filter them might also be one of the suggestions. Or filter might be a better word for this, but basically get rid of the don't select password field. I think the downside with select is that you can do a select and include, right? I think you cannot do a select and include on the same query, which is why it's not being used maybe a whole lot. So I can get this one back and we'll create it at and update it at, and also we have email here. So this is all good, and I just go back, refresh. I might not even need to refresh, and it's all there. Again, good, great stuff. Okay, awesome. So far, it's definitely really simple to work with. I'm definitely amazed by having this magic, and I think because we didn't type it out, you didn't really see it. But if we were to write this from start, so let's say const user query equals tRPC dot use query, and this, if I do my comment space, will tell me all the queries that you have, and then I assume use mutation.
That actually doesn't have brackets. That's just a string, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my guess is you can have multiple queries, and you only can ever have one mutation.
It's because I've just copied how React Query does it. And React Query, when you have an input argument, you have to pass a tuple. Where when you do a mutation, you don't use a tuple because the actual input argument is when you call it and not when you declare it.
Got it. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see it was a tuple. Yeah. So first parameter is the actual query, and the second one is then the parameter you're going to pass it in.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. And I guess if we let's do a bit of GraphQL analysis, I guess it's query and variables in GraphQL,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
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 Depends if you use Relay or Apollo, because to do it, it's slightly different. But
I have zero experience with Relay. It's on my long list of things I should at some point check out.
It's really cool, but it's also very complicated.
Yeah. It's probably not as simple as this one, that's for sure.
No.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So use query, but this type inference, this is something what I saw on your stream, and this was something that pretty much blew me away. Like this is definitely powerful stuff. Now, I think one place where we haven't looked at is this utils tRPC thingy. So, okay, it's small. It's basically some how do you say? It's basically some boilerplate to wire some things up. At least that's what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. So the only thing, it's to create these type safe hooks. So on the front end, with the front end, the library that you use, tRPC needs to know the types of your backend. So we create the React hooks here with, I would like to have a better way of doing this, but
yeah,
basically I just call a React query hooks that doesn't do anything really. It just infers the types, decorates the types of the router onto a set of predefined functions.
Very cool. Yeah. So this is basically the method, the magic here.
Yeah.
And yeah. Awesome. I'm pretty impressed, Alex. This is really cool stuff. Yeah. I know a few TypeScript wizards, so I'm definitely going to add you to the list. That's
Thanks. Yeah, so we can do some more fun stuff. I can show you some cool stuff because, like, you know, in GraphQL you have batching and stuff. In tRPC you also have batching. So if you have two parallel queries, they actually happens in parallel, or they don't happen in parallel. They happen at once in one batch of requests. So if you go to the front page of if you open your browser and go to the front page where we had the post list, you see that when you click this view more, you actually get a loading spinner for a few milliseconds. Now that you're local, you'll see a flash of a load. Yeah. So one thing, it would be nice if we can pre-fetch what you click on the page, right? So start by adding a few more posts, and I'll walk you through on how you could actually optimistically prefetch the sort of queries around.
I guess I submitted an empty one. Yeah. Okay, a few more posts.
Cool. And you see a loading spin in there. You can go to network and change to 3G or something if you want to, like, get it even slower.
No, throttling. Good 3G. That's the place where you want to be. We have decent 3G. This is your average Colombian mobile connection, I guess. This is pretty slow, by the way. It does get faster. We do have 4G. I don't want to diss my country that is hosting me so friendly. Okay, so here we go. View more. the spinner should be here on the page, right?
Yeah, it's there when you navigate. Not when you reload it, because then it's server-side render.
Server-side
but
rendered,
when you navigate to it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if I can actually see it, because I did see the reference in the page. Ah, yeah. Very quickly, it's appearing here on the bottom. Yeah. Okay. Good. Saw it. Check.
Okay. So if we go to our the index page, there's actually some stuff commented out about this. So you see,
prefetch all posts for instant navigation. I'll import the hook here. And then this needs to be an object.
Yeah.
Good.
So this is typically a code that looks horrifically unperformant, right? You're doing a loop and you're procedurally calling individual endpoints. But if you take this and just reload the page of the index page, you can see in the network tab what happens.
And so okay, go back to the index page, clean this one. I refresh, so it'll clean it up automatically.
And you can filter on fetch or XHR or something. So you.
I can just click this button.
Yeah.
And there you go. Okay, so interesting. I think I saw the. So let's look at the request first, or the headers. This is interesting. So it does a post by ID. It basically tags it all on.
Yeah.
Right after each other.
Yeah. And it does it as a one glorious GET request that is easy to cache in the HTTP layer.
Got it. What's like the max length of a URL? Is it relevant?
Ridiculously long, and I have ideas how I can fix that. But 4,000 characters is sort of what I've heard is a good limit to, or yeah, is it 4,000, something like that? But I had someone that had a list of several hundred items that they loaded as one batch call. And he had some problems, so he had to reconfigure Nginx or something to tweak the URL length. But Chrome didn't seem to mind on really long limits, because this is the never-ending problem with GraphQL, that everything is a post, right? Like
totally.
It makes caching really hard.
Yeah.
And originally tRPC was all posts, but this is a lot easier to cache.
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely realized that issue with GraphQL, and like for me personally, I'm fine because I understand the reason why, and I'm happy to fix it. But I definitely can see why people are hesitant to move to GraphQL because of these kind of things.
Yeah.
I also like this, that it's still just plain HTTP, so you can just curl it out. There you go. And we have our data back in here. Awesome. Okay, so that's batching on initially on the front end. So it's interesting. So my main I wouldn't say red flag, but the main thing that caught my eye is a for each. If I see a for each in my own code, I generally refactor it, so I don't use for each. I prefer to use map. Yeah. I guess I would have initially gone more something like this.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Yeah, for off also good enough.
The reason why I did the for each here, I mean, I never really write this. This is just example code, right? So don't take anything in this project as in this is the way I write code. I prefer writing for off whenever I can. Yeah.
Definitely see that. I use that a lot as well. For off is great with async. Hey, wait. Post query. We need to have data, and then we can do post here. Yeah, and then this would be. Yeah, I can see that. Now I definitely understand as a demo, but it does seem strange. And then
yeah,
for me to understand, so the squiggly line here is my editor telling me like, hey, you're ignoring a promise. And
but that's
that's
a promise that's safe to ignore actually.
Because how does this work? This operation, the prefetching is not asynchronous, I imagine. It's just adding it to some list of things that it will eventually request to the backend.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
So it's similar to how, you know, the, what's it called in Node? You know, the whole event loop in Node, where you wait a tick to do something to defer that action. So
next tick.
So yeah, so it's the same mechanism. I have a batch thing that triggers the batch job after 1 millisecond. So you can call a lot of things in parallel. They will add it to a list, and then they will be fetched every millisecond, sort of in batches.
Very cool.
And you can customize this too. So you can opt out of this batching behavior if you want, or you can write your own thing. So
I think I saw in the, what is it? Is it in the app or in the, where is it? In the router?
There's something in the tRPC handler, API handler. So that's in the API /2.
Yeah. I think I realized I saw it and I figured we're gonna get to it. Batching. Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah. So it's default enabled since a few versions ago. But then the client can then, you know, the way you can customize the sort of the flow of data between the client and the server in Apollo and Urkel with links and exchanges. You can do the same thing with tRPC. So you can actually route, if you have a particularly slow query, for instance, you might want to have that as a single query so it doesn't slow down a full batch. Then you can customize so you have specific queries that then goes to a single endpoint rather than slowing everything down.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Love it. And so enabled by default. So you basically transparently, if you don't, where were we? Where is it? Index. Yeah. If you don't add it here, you're not using it, but it's available to you whenever you need it.
Yeah.
Is that correct way to put it?
Yeah, exactly. So a more typical way of doing prefetching would be like on hover or whatever you would call this prefetch query thing.
Right, because this will pop it in the queue, and when the queue is basically full, between quotation mark, it will go and do it.
Yeah, it will do it a millisecond after you write this, after this is executed.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. This is really cool stuff. This is really nice. So we got batching here. We can load in a bunch of stuff. It's as if you only use, from the front end perspective, it's as if you only use like a strongly typed system, whatever it is. Like basically your GraphQL hooks, but then cleaner. Very cool, very cool. Any other things you think that are interesting to look at here?
I mean, there's sort of middlewares and error handling and stuff like that. You know, backend middlewares, you know, Express-like middleware stuff. We can actually dynamically change the context of like a full sub route. So for instance, like if you have protected routes, you can do a middleware that asserts that the user is set, and then the user object on your context will be guaranteed and things like that.
Very cool. And this is where you do it, like inside the context. This is also where you have any middleware.
No, you do that in the actual router. So in for instance, the user router, you can do like, maybe you have a create where you want to check some extra stuff. So
let's do a mutation then.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Create, which has a procedure input, and we have z.object where we say username c.string and email as well. And then I have async resolve with contacts and input. Ha! A comma here, but other than that, it is it's pretty straightforward how to use this. And Prettier is not happy, but it is now. Okay, so we have a mutation where we want to do create. I mean, this is a second query, all right. It's all pretty pretty amazing. Cool. And then the middleware, how does it interact here?
So the middleware you would do in front of this mutation. So you can do all like a whole set of routers under a middleware, but if you do a .middleware here, anything defined after that will have the middleware running ahead of it.
Interesting. And this is also, again, strongly typed, I assume. Or isn't it? How does what is the syntax before I start guessing? What would the syntax be?
Yeah, it's a function callback. Should be, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So here I return something.
Yeah, you return options.next.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That sounds familiar enough. And then I'm out of curiosity, like this is just the semicolon not being there. Ah, this is also just Prettier. Okay, sure, whatever, Prettier. Okay, so this is the middleware, so I can run anything here, and then just so actually the physical position, if it's underneath, if it's defined later than the middleware, it will apply to there, and if it's not, it will apply.
Yeah.
To the other stuff.
And then as a part of as a part of a middleware, you can actually swap the context into another type of another shape that is then passed further down. But that's a bit.
Okay, so I'm able to make changes. So one of the things that I was looking, so I already figured. So I guess I can run this as CTX and next, and I don't have to use opt. So I have just a more natural feeling. And now I can say, for instance, let's say we only want to do this in development, whatever. So I can say const is dev, and then only allow stuff if we're in development, and if not, we're not going to allow stuff.
Yeah. So here you would just throw an error, basically.
Yeah. If right. If not is dev. Throw this one, and then I hope this will give me code. Yes, it gives me code. Forbidden, we can only do this in dev. Very cool. And let's make it actually production, because we're not running into development. Production and prod. And this is something that should now, so the create should now be blocked. And then in order to execute this, I guess I can just call out create here on the index page, right? There's not really a difference where I can run it.
Yeah.
So it's a mutation. So I say const add user is tRPC.useMutation, and this is gonna get completed. And then I need to invoke it somewhere, if I understand correctly, or is it?
Yeah.
Are these lazy or?
Yeah, so you have to call them, right? So usually you have a form action or something that calls them. If you want to do something for test, you can just do a use effect that calls it. Or
got it. Yeah, got it. Yeah. Okay, so we can just say use effect, and then just say add user, which I assume is a method.
No, you had .mutate or mutate async. So this you see here all comes from React Query.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with React Query, so that doesn't help here. Okay, and here we should pass in an object because that's what it expects. Or shouldn't it? I mean, I'm.
Yeah, that
I'm
should be the
guessing,
input argument that you have there.
Yeah. Okay. Let's quickly check how we do the other mutate. Okay, mutate async. Interesting.
You can do either. If you do it as part of like a form handler, it might be easier to do a mutate async. But either way, this hook will update its state with some like error data or result data. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
So that works.
So, yeah, it does work. It's just the editor catching up with all these new types. So let's see what is going on here. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we can go back to the browser and actually, there we go. We got an error message right away. So it's refreshing. We can only do this in prod. Ha. Great, great, great. Yeah, this is very cool. And then if we would change this environment, let's not bother right now. I mean, I guess if we're gonna bother anyway. Node env is production. I mean, that's kind of what you get with a DX that's fast. It makes it easy to experiment with these kind of things.
Yeah. And then middleware is also a good place to do error handling for like specific routers and stuff. So you can also, the way you called next at the end, you can do await next, and then you can get error response within that.
Sorry, let's go back again. We were in the router. You said middleware is a good way to do error handling for what situation?
Yeah, so sort of like if you want to do, you can do granular error handling of like a specific set of procedures, right? So if rather than returning next, you do like next, like response equals await next and return that. You can also see on that object you have if this succeeded or not, and then you can do logging there. So there's two ways of doing error handling. Either you can use the on error callback that you saw in the tRPC API handler, or you can do like a middleware that takes care of it.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. And now I guess like initial thought is from more global to more focused, more local handling.
Yeah.
Very cool. And very, very cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking if there's anything else I should show. The sort of the error handling that you can do type safe as well. So you can infer like types on the sort of input validation, for instance. You can make sure that you have input validation errors always coming back in the same shape, so you can use them nicely on the front end.
Okay, we can take a look at this. Is that done by middleware as well?
No, it's in the format error on the app router.
App router, this one.
So you see the format error stuff there?
Yeah, okay, okay, nice. So it expects me to return something.
Yeah, so just return the shape for now that you see there.
Okay. We can log them out, I guess, and take a peek at it. Are you also a console log debugger, or do you actually use proper debugging tools?
There are people, yeah, there are people there are, and there are liars.
Yes, I agree. I happily admit. I do sometimes use the debugger. It's pretty powerful in IntelliJ, but
yeah, it's just a bit annoying with Node. You have to start a separate thing, and yeah, in the browser I always use the debugger.
So okay, let's not look at this one. So it's in the app, so I should be able to go here, and I kind of expect. Ah, no, sorry. Format error. We need to trigger an error first.
Yeah, so
right?
submit the query or something.
Yeah. tRPC client error. And then I expect, there you go. Here it is, the shape and the error. If I understand it correctly, if my guess is right. There you go, shape. So this is the shape of the message. This is being returned by the Z library.
Yeah, exactly. So that's from the validation lib.
Yeah, so this is basically where I pick up whatever the Z library validates, and then it returns this error. So yeah.
But that's not, yeah, exactly. So it returns like a big message as a string, which is an array. So it's a bit annoying to work with, right? If you actually want to use meta information from this error on the front end. So then you could actually take this object and reshape it in your format error function.
Yeah.
For instance, like displaying next to an input field.
Yeah, because we're probably interested in adding it to each exact field. So we want to figure out, we basically want to key it off, maybe key it off the path, and have an array of errors there, things that are
exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess we don't have to actually do this, but you can just click into the link on top of that format error function. You can see that it's easy to plug in. So if you were to do this, you could just copy that blob, for instance.
I guess it's only the return that I copied. Hey, why is there? Okay, let me recopy this because just the whole format error one. I think there might be something not.
There's something wrong in my example.
There might be. I mean, I'm generally not the type of guy that starts pointing. I consider myself a dev that starts pointing at themselves first. But you never know.
So
ZAD error. It looks like this one is it's not happy about this one.
That's changed to something else. You just rely on the auto-completion on that code thing. It should be.
And I didn't have this ZAD error imported as well. That also really helps. And I guess this one doesn't need semicolons. There we go. It doesn't compile anymore. It doesn't.
It's the semicolon.
It was and a semicolon and an import that I didn't have this ZAD error. And we can peek here at what the error message actually was. I think bad request. There you go.
Exactly.
So we should be able to do this. So should this then be my first pull request?
Yeah, please. I'd love some help with the documentation. It's the last thing I spend time on.
Yeah, I can see how that works. So okay, now we're here, and now I actually want to just for sakes of it, refresh, submit query, and then I don't really see that we changed the shape.
Yeah, so you can see that now if you go into, you can check the network tab here to see that you actually got something else back on the mutation.
Yeah, so this is the mutation and the response, and then this is what we get back.
Cool. Yeah, wait. Maybe my reference code is wrong on this one. Let's bounce over to the front end where this is used.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So inside the index,
Yeah.
inside here, we have some error message.
Yeah. So if we hover on this error function, the error object there, what type is that?
Multiple implementations, it says.
Okay. It might also be that the version of Zod has changed since I set this up, so the methods might have changed.
Yeah. This might
so
be, but
yeah,
it's
live coding, eh?
Yeah. The demo gods. No, I definitely see how this can be helpful. And I'm just gonna leave this in as a. I'm just gonna let's see, where was this in our app? There you go.
No.
I'm just gonna leave this commented so people can use it for reference if they want to check the repo afterwards. It's gonna be on github.com/bman/BLS042. I'll link it in the description. Awesome. Error handling, we talked about. We actually did database access. We start with it right away because you had it on board, which is great. I started already thinking in the back of my head, like if I have like some sort of pet project that I could throw this on, and because I'm definitely interested. One of the things I was wondering. So let's see. If you do a lot of copy-paste driven development, which you just said you did, a keyboard, a clipboard history is golden.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you have it. Yeah, good. Okay, good.
I have one called clip menu.
Okay, I don't know that one, I guess, but I use the Alfred one.
Mine.
I use Alfred.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has just the option in there. So anyway, so I sadly don't have everything written yet, so I still need to write some stuff manually. But so this is probably the last thing that I was wondering about. Doing relationships. I think I already know how it should work. So I should say posts. This is post array. I mean, I guess Yarn Prisma format should actually do this for me.
Yeah, I should. I always copy paste from the documentation when I had a relation, or if I don't have one in project already.
I'm always generally happy with what the formatter does, but I am kind of sad that the integration for IntelliJ editors for Prisma is not as good as the one for VS Code. VS Code is kind of getting the Internet Explorer for editors these days.
Yeah.
So if you're not using it, you're sadly out of luck. Yeah, that's what most people use.
This project comes with some extensions and stuff as well if you use VS Code.
Interesting. Okay, yes, and now I need to update seed because it cannot do this. Okay, yes, I agree. This should be the right thing. So post belongs to user, so we created user owner. Should actually be author, but let's not obsess over the semantics. Connect. And then I guess I need to reverse these ones. Let's do it like this. No errors. No errors in the seed. Yay. Okay. So what I expect to happen, I expect if I go to a user detail page that the post is not there because I did not include it. And then there's a second reason why it's not there. The second reason is because I didn't select it. Because this is something I use Prisma for everything, and one of the main reasons I love using it is for the relations.
Yeah, likewise.
Which are basically things you get a lot of stuff for free. So, and this is, I think, where we go into the include, because if I do this, include posts is true, I think Prisma will now start complaining where it says like, hey, you cannot do this when you also do a select.
But you can do it in the select, right? You can just select the post because it will just be an object on.
Good. Okay. I didn't know that. That's great, because this is the area I wanted to show. So you can either use selector or include. This is what we referred to a little bit back, but you're suggesting, and now I'm learning something new about Prisma. I can say posts true.
Yeah, should do.
Huh. Awesome. Yeah. And then the next one is, can I do a select here? Because this is, I guess, if this is true, then I might be able to refer. Oh, okay, awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Alex. This is why you need to hop on calls with other developers that use the same tools.
Yeah.
This is okay, interesting. Yeah, good.
It makes life a lot easier to know that.
Oh man, I guess I can get a lot of I can get a few resolvers out there. Great. I think I got a great impression of tRPC so far. If there's anything you love to show, scream it. I do have one thing that I had in mind, which I think we didn't touch on. One of the things I really like using in GraphQL is to resolve fields properly, or basically virtual fields, if you will. Yeah. Is this something that you have a solution for? Is this something that you can do already with the building blocks that we have?
No, at the moment, that's nothing. That's not part of tRPC. That's the whole thing of GraphQL, right? You have like a graph where you can connect all the dots as long as there's a relation. And in tRPC, it's a procedure that returns a blob of data. And right now, you don't have like subfield selection and stuff. I have been toying with the idea, but it's not there yet.
Yeah, I can definitely see why this is getting complicated, because let's say, I guess the classic example that I use it for, I want users to store their first name and last name as separate entity, but on the actual object that I return, I want to have a name property that basically concatenates these two things.
Oh yeah, that's easy to do. That sort of stuff that's super easy. That's just to write. Then you can just write that in your result function. We can jump in and do that.
So let's make a name field that adds your username and your email, for instance, for the sake of demonstration. So just going to give TypeScript a little kick here because it's getting out of date.
Have to do that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth the issue. So we're actually on the right spot already. I mean, I can take a guess. I guess I can just say user, and then name is, let's do this a bit fancier, user.username and user.email. Is this it?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yay! Okay, great. So virtual fields, it's interesting. And then if you would like to do so, I guess in GraphQL, at least the flavor that I use, Nest.js GraphQL, I define this on the user class or the user resolver. Actually, I say resolve this field every time it fetches a user. Then in this case, I need to have some method that does this, for instance, in the list of users as well as in the individual users.
Yeah, or you can just do a function that does it for you, right? Whenever you want to do it.
Yeah.
You can do a data transform function that takes a generic that can transform it for it.
Yeah, cool. And then, I mean, you could even tack it on here, I guess.
Yeah, you can do a little map on that. Oh, no, that's not a. Yeah.
It's just the individual user, but just do it here so you don't have to bother with it in your return type. And then I guess, Okay, I agree. This is definitely it's definitely simple. As we know. Yeah. Okay. Type inference. Good. I understand the issues. Oh man, cool. Yeah. I guess I just interrupted you. Do you have any other things you like to show or you like to look at with regards to
I mean,
tRPC?
a few things that is worth to mention is that tRPC is no way, we've been focused on React today, but it's in no way locked to React. So tRPC consists of 4 different libraries. There's the server, there's the client, which doesn't have these two doesn't have any dependencies, and then there's the two React libraries, one for specifically Next.js and one for React. And then the React one has React queries dependency. But you can use this without React, and the code you see here today, you can do exact same thing in React Native as well, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So you can do, as long as you have like a monorepo setup, you can write a React, seamlessly jump between like your React Native app into your backend and get everything inferred straight away. And there is an example project of that in the docs as well, that has a monorepo of. It's not in this one, so it's in a separate repo because it's a monorepo itself, and I can't have a monorepo in a monorepo.
Yeah, you got it. Zart, nice.
0 API, React, and TypeScript.
Start a repo, people. I'm not logged in this browser. It's my alternative browser. It's not today, but interesting, very cool. I tend to use a lot of Angular. Have you worked with it in Angular? Know people that have used it in Angular?
No, I haven't. I don't know Angular very well. I used Angular 1, and since then I've been out of the loop. Yeah. But it might be possible. If you can use fetch, you can use tRPC basically. I tried to do a view integration with tRPC the other day, and there's some issues with the sort of ES module and CommonJS world colliding. Got it. But yeah, there's no technical limitation not to use it in anything.
By design, it's not specified to. It's not tied to one integration. That's cool. Yeah, awesome. So one of the things I was wondering, and so you said you suggested monorepo, so your stuff lives in the same package. Is there a way that I can basically expose what I have over npm and have you install only the clients?
I think I haven't played with it myself, but there's nothing stopping you from doing that except for, there will be quite a boilerplate to set up. But the whole design of tRPC is sort of like for internal services, because we completely removed the whole idea of an API schema from something fixed that is strictly defined into something that is transient and just lives within the TypeScript compiler. So it's not really suitable if you're doing like a public API or something that you want to expose as an SDK, because you can if you break stuff within the repo, you get warnings. But if you break something for someone else that is not part of the repo, you won't know that.
Got it. Yeah. So it's really a dev time utility. That's really where it shines. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see the benefits of that, and I think it's also great to have a clear idea of where what the area is that you wanna serve.
Yeah. So I mean, a bit of the background too. Like, I didn't skip through quite a lot in the beginning, but I started in the LAMP stack like 20 years ago or 15 years ago, or whatever. And back then, you wrote like SQL queries next to your template code, and it was marvelous because it was so. If something went wrong, you knew exactly where to look, and that I've still. I've been working with the Node in the Node.js and front-end world for 10 years after that. And I still struggle to get the same sort of productivity as when I was doing like inline SQL queries next to my HTML.
Yeah, interesting. So, I got a pretty similar background, LAMP stack, and I used Cake PHP, probably something you've heard of, this also had a few things that I still miss up until today. I like not miss it dearly, but there's things in my workflow that I wish I loved to have back. And for me, it's been mostly around scaffolding out code and adding simple CRUD stuff that I can iterate on. It really helped me get from 0 to a working product very fast without actually knowing the tools by heart.
Yeah.
And it showed me how to actually use classes in PHP and how to actually do, I mean, I'm not sure if they have injection, but more fancy stuff. And it's interesting how at some point we all move away to a new tool or a new situation. And a few years later, it's like, why did we actually stop using this? And yeah, interesting.
I mean, I don't really. I think I made a switch. I mean, I did a switch from PHP to Node.js in 2011, and I don't think I understood it myself. But it was what the cool people were using, right?
Yeah. I had a similar thing. Well, I kind of had it was definitely that. It's driven by hype, but also I really liked the fact of having less mental overhead between front end and back end, because PHP and sure it's in the end of the day it's printing out static HTML, and you can add like front end frameworks to it, which I started doing. So I had also AngularJS in PHP, and then all of a sudden you're only writing JavaScript, and you can start enjoying it. And then
exactly. That's the nice thing. You can use the same language everywhere. And tRPC sort of removes another language like the GraphQL or the YAML file that you have to define otherwise. It's all like one glorious monolith that works together back to front.
Yeah.
So it's sort of doing a full circle back to how I did PHP 15 years ago.
Are you aware that Next.js in certain extent is also inspired by PHP? Where you would just drop a file somewhere. Drop a file somewhere and it's a route. And it was kind of controversial at that point because it's kind of bad words. Like you cannot like PHP in 2020 or 2016, whenever they came up with Next.
I still my love for PHP will never die.
Good. Praise it. No, there was a time where I was happy not working with it, but mainly not PHP itself. I was happy that I didn't have to support Drupal and WordPress, which I used intensively. And I moved towards building my own systems, which have other frustrating parts, but at least it's your own mess that you create. It's not someone else's mess. But modern PHP looks way different than 10 years ago. They have a lot of good stuff going for it, and like package managers and all that stuff. So
yeah.
Might do some PHP content here at some point. Now that we're talking about it, I don't know.
That'd be fun. I see Theo has written quite a bit. I haven't really paid attention to the chat.
Me neither. And the issue is mainly my excuse, because normally I try to interact a little bit, but my excuse has been I've only one screen, so I've been looking at my full screen browser all the time or editor. So we had Hildres desde Mexico. Fire app, one of the people from the Kin community, lovely people. Fire is a social network powered by Kin. Chow-Tran, the channel resident. I'm most likely going to have Chow on very soon because he's been working on some cool stuff with using Notion as the API for a static site, which is generated by Angular. Brandon T. Roberts was actually the last guest here 4 months ago when we talked about NGRX. And Theo, I guess you're new to the channel, so welcome here. Love you if you're interested. And once I got my setup back, it's Theo, somebody you know?
Yeah, he's my biggest hype man. He started using tRPC a few months ago, and is building his startup with tRPC. Like, the stack he showed you is sort of the stack he's using.
Awesome. I'm definitely gonna check that out a bit more detailed. Also, I'm going to be real fancy, and you can follow Alex here on Twitter, alex.js. And I'm not sure if I have your GitHub, but I will add the one from tRPC, which is pretty simple. It's github.com/tRPC/tRPC. It's a tRPC org. tRPC.io is the website. npm namespace, you just claimed it all, the whole suite.
Yeah, was lucky there.
Yeah, that's nice. Alex, thanks so much for your being with me today. This has been long in the list, so I'm super happy that we can tick it off. It was a super interesting project. So you said documentation is still lacking point. Is there any other call for action you want to do? Like people want to test it, want feedback? Where do you want to receive the feedback?
Yeah, so the easiest, like, I prefer to have things publicly. So either like GitHub discussions or on Twitter or on the Discord. There's a tRPC.io/Discord as well. So, or just if you want to, you can just reach out to me. I'd love to have like some negative feedback. If people find quirks that they hate about it, because I haven't gotten too much negative. The most negative reviews I sort of gotten is like, it's not GraphQL.
Yeah.
Or like, why invent something new when there's REST in GraphQL? Is sort of the only feedback I've gotten, which is sort of useless.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm all for trying new stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, good. But actually, this should come from people who actually start using it. And I'm gonna think so. I got an actual job since a few months, so I don't have a whole lot of time. I used to be freelancer, so I had way more time to actually spend on pet projects. Yesterday I did think about an API that I wanted to write, and it's not public, and I need some simple front end, and I need to throw something up quickly. I started designing the Prisma schema. This is already, for me, this is like 50% there. Like if it supports Prisma. Because if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, I can still save the schema, drop it in my own schema, run my code generations, and move on from there. So I'm not going to promise it, but I might actually look at it for the project that I haven't had.
Yeah, don't hesitate to reach out if you get stuck with anything.
We'll definitely do so. Is there anything else you'd like to plug? Anything unrelated to code? No.
Follow me on Twitter and send me some love or hate.
Awesome. Great. Thanks so much, Alex. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And I will be back soon with another episode of BLS. Bye-bye.